What if I told you that the richest person alive today, with all their billions, doesn't even come close to the wealth of one ancient Roman emperor? We're talking about a fortune so massive it would make Elon Musk's net worth look like pocket change. His name was Augustus Caesar, and his personal wealth has been estimated at a staggering 4.6 trillion dollars in today's money. That's not a typo. But here's the twist: he didn't just inherit this fortune, he conquered it. This is the untold story of how one man became the richest person in history by owning an entire country as his personal property. Stay with me, because what you're about to discover will blow your mind. A.T.H. Bird H.O.F. A Empire. The year is 44 BCE. A young man named Gaius Octavius, barely 18 years old, receives news that will change his life forever. His great-uncle Julius Caesar, the most powerful man in Rome, has been assassinated. Stabbed 23 times by senators who feared his growing power. But Caesar's death wasn't the end, it was the beginning of something far greater. In Caesar's will, young Octavius discovered something extraordinary. He had been formally adopted as Caesar's son and named his chief heir. Overnight, this teenager inherited not just Caesar's name and fortune, but also the loyalty of Rome's most powerful legions. He would become known to history as Augustus Caesar, the first emperor of Rome. But Augustus wasn't satisfied with just inheriting power. He wanted absolute control. To achieve this, he would have to eliminate his rivals. The most dangerous was Mark Antony, Caesar's former lieutenant, who had allied himself with the richest woman in the world, Cleopatra, Queen of Egypt. Egypt wasn't just any kingdom. It was the crown jewel of the ancient world. The Nile River's annual floods created the most fertile farmland on the planet, producing grain that fed millions. Egypt was also the world's primary producer of gold, papyrus, glass, and precious stones. Control Egypt, and you controlled unimaginable wealth. Mark Antony and Cleopatra knew this. They envisioned creating an empire of the East that would rival Rome itself. But Augustus saw them as a threat that had to be eliminated. The stage was set for one of history's greatest showdowns. Conquests of Egypt in 31 BCE, the two forces met at the Battle of Actium off the coast of Greece. It was one of the largest naval battles in ancient history. Augustus's fleet, commanded by his brilliant general Marcus Agrippa, faced off against the combined forces of Antony and Cleopatra. The battle was fierce, but Augustus emerged victorious. Antony and Cleopatra fled back to Egypt, but Augustus pursued them relentlessly. He knew that whoever controlled Egypt would control the future of the Mediterranean world. When Augustus's forces arrived in Alexandria in 30 BCE, Antony and Cleopatra realized their fate was sealed. Rather than face capture, they both committed suicide. Mark Antony died in Cleopatra's arms, and she followed him by allowing an asp, a venomous snake, to bite her. With their deaths, the Ptolemaic dynasty that had ruled Egypt for 300 years came to an end. Augustus now stood as the undisputed master of the Roman world. But what he did next was unprecedented in Roman history. Instead of declaring Egypt a province of the Roman Senate, Augustus claimed it as his personal property. He literally owned Egypt. Every grain of wheat, every ounce of gold, every trade route, it all belonged to him personally. To put this in perspective, Egypt at this time produced about 20% of the world's economic output. Imagine one person today personally owning a country that generates 1/5 of global GDP. That's equivalent to roughly $20 trillion in today's economy. Augustus's personal slice of this economic pie has been estimated by Stanford historian Ian Morris at 1/5 of his empire's economy, approximately $4.6 trillion. But Augustus was more than just a conqueror. He was a brilliant administrator who understood that wealth meant nothing without proper management. He immediately set about reorganizing Egypt to maximize its productivity. He appointed a prefect, a governor, to oversee Egypt's operations. This wasn't a senator who might have political ambitions. It was a carefully chosen administrator from the equestrian class, loyal only to Augustus. In fact, Augustus was so paranoid about Egypt's strategic importance that he passed a law forbidding any Roman senator from even entering Egypt without his personal permission. Why? Because Egypt's grain supply was so vital to feeding Rome's population that control of it could make or break emperors. Whoever held Egypt held a knife to Rome's throat. The prefects Augustus appointed focused on revitalizing Egypt's agriculture. They repaired the irrigation canals that the Ptolemies had neglected, leading to a boom in agricultural production that lasted for centuries. Egypt became the breadbasket of the Roman Empire, shipping massive quantities of grain to Rome and other cities. But grain wasn't Egypt's only resource. The country produced luxury goods that were in high demand throughout the empire: fine papyrus for writing, exquisite glassware, precious stones like porphyry and granite used in Roman monuments and sculptures, and trade goods from Africa, Arabia, and India that flowed through Egyptian ports. All of this wealth flowed into Augustus's personal treasury. He used it strategically. He funded massive public works projects in Rome, transforming the city from brick to marble. He built new forums, temples, arches, and monuments. He famously boasted, "I found Rome a city of bricks and left it a city of marble." S's Ouso war, Augustus's wealth wasn't just about personal luxury, though he certainly lived well. It was about power, the power to reshape the Roman world according to his vision. He used his fortune to pay and pension off his legions, ensuring their loyalty. He reformed the tax system, making it more efficient and less corrupt. He invested in infrastructure throughout the empire, building roads, aqueducts, and ports that facilitated trade and communication. But there was a darker side to this immense wealth. The Egyptian people who actually worked the land saw little benefit. They were heavily taxed to support the empire and the wealthy elite. The social structure was rigid and exploitative. Roman citizens and Greeks had privilege, while native Egyptians and Jews were second-class citizens taxed more heavily and treated with less justice. Augustus ruled as emperor for 41 years, dying in 14 CE at the age of 75. His reign brought unprecedented peace and prosperity to the Mediterranean world, a period known as the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. But it also established a template for imperial rule where one man held absolute power backed by unimaginable wealth. After Augustus's death, Egypt remained the personal property of each successive emperor, passed down as part of their patrimony. This single conquest, made over 2,000 years ago, shaped the course of Western civilization for the next 400 years. When we talk about the richest people in history, Mansa Musa, Genghis Khan, John D. Rockefeller, Augustus Caesar deserves to be at the top of the conversation, not just because of the estimated value of his fortune, but because of what that fortune represented: absolute control over the economic engine of the ancient world. So the next time someone tells you about a modern billionaire with $100 billion, remember Augustus Caesar. He personally owned an entire country, he commanded legions, he transformed Rome from a republic into an empire, and he accumulated a fortune that, when adjusted for inflation and economic share, remains one of the largest in human history. If you found this story as mind-blowing as I did, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. We're diving deep into more untold stories of history's most powerful figures, the wealth, the power, and the secrets they left behind. Drop a comment below. Who do you think was the richest person in all of history? Hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next video. Until next time, keep questioning history!